Welcome to a noob's guide to Alith Anar. This is Alith Anar, the Shadow King? Hello? You know it's about to get bad when the trees start talking Elvish. Alith Anar is the guy the villains of Warhammer have nightmares about. A legend among his own people and a terror to his enemies, Alith's never-ending guerrilla campaign has been gruesome enough that neither side can forget his atrocities. I mean, taking a page from the William Wallace playbook, if there ever was a Warhammer character that walked the fine line between freedom fighter and terrorist, it's Alith Anar. This vengeful wrath of the night hunts Dark Elves from the shadows without mercy, silent but deadly. But whether Alith Anar is the same guy still stalking Druchii 1,000 years later, or a Dread Pirate Roberts situation, or an actual avenging elf ghost is anyone's guess. In this video, we'll go over Alith Anar's lore and how that's been translated to gameplay in the Total War Warhammer series. The creators of Warhammer, Games Workshop, tend to retcon their characters with each new edition to make them, frankly, a bit cooler. But with Alith Anar, they knocked it out of the park the first time, and he's been anti-heroing his way through enemies ever since. Vigilantes were all the rage in the 80s and early 90s, satirical anti-heroes who fought against violence by using even more extreme violence.
What'd you do with Sully?
I let him go.
Alith Anar believes the only good Druchii is a dead one, and will not rest until every Dark Elf is put into a closed casket. Whether or not they're still alive when they go into the ground is negotiable. In-game, this becomes the marked for death mechanic, where you'll be tasked with assassinating 3 enemy lords on the campaign map. If you manage to kill one, there will be money, influence, and temporary buff as a reward. But you'll only have 20 turns to reach them before they slip away like a greased nut into a car engine. Luckily, if he can't reach them personally, Alith can always invoke the right of Morai Heg and summon the Hand of the Shadow Crown, a special hero who always successfully assassinates any character you choose. But like most men sneaking one in the back door, he only gets the one shot, and must be resummoned by using the right again. Because if there's one thing Alith Anar's campaign needed, it was another wandering murder hobo. When the Elven Civil War kicked off, Alith Anar's family were some of the only nobles that didn't rebel and join Malekith. They had been appalled to watch as their home kingdom of Nagaroth had become a haven of slavers and depravity ushered in by the Dark Elves. Women weren't wearing bras, skirts had gotten shorter, and he was pretty sure it's not supposed to be called a Netflix and bondage party. So, they fought back. This left Alith, the head of a loyalist faction, so far behind enemy lines, it could have been Knoxville, Tennessee during the American Civil War, which, fun fact, voted not to secede from the Union and had to be constantly occupied because the local hillbillies wouldn't stop fighting the Confederacy. Which is exactly what Alith Anar did, because Warhammer is pulled straight from history, y'all. This pitted brother against brother and had parents screaming for the blood of their own children. With their cities burning around them, Alith Anar stepped into the shadows and passed into legend by eradicating Dark Elves with a vengeance. He and his followers swore oaths of revenge against their enemies, promising to never rest until their home was free. These newly christened Shadow Warriors ambushed from hiding places deep within the Shadowlands, striking noiselessly from concealment with deadly accurate volleys from their longbows. These Shadow Warriors only used arrows with barbed tips and thorny shafts taken from trees withered by Dark Elf blood, which takes ribbed for their pleasure to a whole new level. As he trained them all himself, Alith Anar pays half the normal upkeep for these Shadow Warriors and their upgraded brothers, the Shadow Walkers, a unique unit that only Alith Anar can field. Both of these Shadow units excel at ambush and skirmish tactics with Stalk and Vanguard deployment, and thanks to Alith's unique building, Ace Anar Camps, you can recruit them from turn 1 of your game. Compared to other High Elves, these Shadow Walkers are so merciless, cold, and callous, they're indistinguishable from the Druchii they hunt. Because you can't expect to play with poop and not get some on ya, which I thought was a common saying before making this video, but apparently is not. Any of Alith Anar's Dark Elf prey who survived an ambush were crucified on trees, a grisly warning to any other Dark Elf patrols nearby. And in case someone missed that message, after the Battle of Griffin Pass, Alith nailed 700 screaming Dark Elf captives to the white cliffs overlooking the valley. And then he probably burned a giant raven into the ground and, put on some 9-inch nails to brood over. In the face of this unrelenting assault, Malekith and his mom eventually gave up and fled back to the west, building new fortresses on the continent of Naggarond, with high walls and a notable lack of trees anywhere within bowshot. After the destruction of their land, the loyal Nagarithi who still remained became a restless, wandering people, tainted by association with their treacherous kin, a frightening reminder of the potential for evil within all elven hearts. Unwilling to put aside their blood oaths and unable to function in a peacetime society, Alith Anar led his warriors across the ocean, becoming an ever-present thorn in the Witch King's side, harassing ships, ambushing patrols, and plundering convoys, which is exactly what you'll be doing in the game, with traits that increase your ambush chance and a special stalking movement stance that lets you try and ambush anyone you fight regardless of if you planned it or not. And when you finally piss the Dark Elves off so much that you have 5-star levels of heat and need a quick exit, Alith can switch to the Shadow Realm stance, which lets you disappear like a sock in the laundry. If that still isn't enough, and you find Alith surrounded by 100 Druchii hell-bent on testing a size XXX butt plug on his backside for revenge, you can always use Alith's Mislead ability, which spawns a body double of him to befuddle your enemies. And also begs the question, did Total War hire Dylan Sprouse to voice Alith Anar before or after this spell existed? An actor famous for his role in a Turn of the Millennium Disney Channel comedy in which he starred with his twin brother. Regardless, with a special skill tree talent, this ghostly afterimage can be upgraded to deal half of Alith Anar's normal damage, cutting short another Dark Elf's sweet life. You'll also get 3 unique quest items to help turn your enemies into budget hedgehog fursuits. The Moon Bow, which was crafted from silver pale moonlight and given to Alith by the elven goddess Lilith herself, the Shadow Crown, a circlet worn by all the true rulers of Naggareth, and the Stone of Midnight, a family heirloom of the Phoenix King, which what it does isn't actually important, it's the backstory that's hilarious. At some point, Alith Anar disguised himself and snuck into the Dark Elf court at Naggarond, specifically to steal it, but it was currently being held by Morathi, Malekith's mom and MILF Sorceress Supreme. So Alith decided to woo her and dance the evening away until she invited him back to her room for a nightcap. And then shortly before dawn, Alith slipped out with the Stone of Midnight now in tow. Morathi was so mortified about what Alith had done that the hag sorceress promised the gift of eternal youth and a night of debauchery with her most beautiful witch elf servant to whoever could kill Alith, and also get the stone back. So the implication here is that to get revenge on Malekith, Alith Anar boned his mom and then stole his Xbox. That's why they call him the Shadow King, the elf who ghosted Morathi after spending a night swapping her one set of jewels for another. What happened to Alith Anar after that is anyone's guess. I mean, you might as well go out on top, or bottom, or possibly behind. But in Total War Warhammer 3, he still stalks Naggareth as an elf of the shadows, a mortal spirit of vengeance, bound to walk the earth swinging the biggest pair of balls in all of Warhammer until the Witch King Malekith is finally laid to rest. And with you controlling him, it's only a matter of time before that last target is within longbow range. For his part, the Witch King Malekith has passed beyond the veil of mortal concerns. But if Malekith still fears anything, it's the vengeance of Alith Anar. And thanks to Morathi, we all know that revenge is still coming. Because this has been a noob's guide to Alith Anar. Thanks for watching.